This is episode 142 of the Two Bald Brothers and a Microphone podcast, where we talk about the people, process, and technology to work together better inside enterprises. This episode was recorded on November 2nd, 2017. In this episode, Tommy and I catch up with Kim Miller, Vice President of Marketing for Booster. We discuss a project that we worked on together while she was at Primrose Schools and focus on tips for working with external users. For Primrose, those external users were franchise owners. We also discuss working with a younger generation of users and her more recent experience at Booster. Finally, we learn about the Booster culture where there's definitely a focus on celebrating. Enjoy this episode and thanks for listening. Hello and welcome to the Two Bald Brothers and a Microphone podcast. I am here with the other bald brother, Tommy Ryan. How are you doing, Tommy Ryan?
Doing well. Looks like you're
Good.
still bald. That's good.
I am still bald.
Well done.
Thank you. I tried. And we are here with a friend of ours, and that is Kim Miller. Kim, how are you doing?
I'm great, and I'm not bald.
Good. It's not. Yeah, it's not a requirement.
You've got enough hair for all of us, right?
I do. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. And we've got an interesting background. I guess my mother was in your mother's wedding. Is that right? Am I getting that right?
They were in each other's wedding, yeah.
You were in each other's wedding?
Yes.
Was
Maids of honor.
Were they both were maids of honor?
I think they actually may have been, but I don't recall exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But and then you somehow ended up here in Atlanta, and we ended up running into each other and made the connection somehow, which was very cool.
Yes, I think I was living in the basement of your best friend's house at the time. I didn't know that he was your best friend.
Wow.
This is Daniel Bassett.
Dan Bassett.
Yes.
Wow. Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
You look back on your life, you're like, there's some crazy connections here. But yes, that is true.
And my
And,
husband went to high school with your wife.
And they had lockers close to each
To one
other,
another.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
right next to one another. No, it's amazing. It's just amazing. So. Well, this is a great opportunity. You've been very busy recently, and I just wanted to catch up with what you're up to. You know, we worked together while you were at Primrose, and now you're at Boosterthon. Tell us more about Boosterthon.
Sure, love to tell you more about Booster. I joined Booster in January of this year, and coming up on almost 1 year in next January. Booster is a school fundraising company, primarily focused on a pledge-based fundraising concept to help strengthen schools. That's really our mission. Our
Okay.
Fun Run concept has a pledge-based platform that people can pledge $1 per lap for the students, and then they run at the end of the week. And if they run 35 laps, that's $35 raised. In addition to the Fun Run concept, throughout the week while at the school, our teams are actually delivering character development content to the students every day, getting them fired up and excited about all of the things pertaining to the Fun Run. We serve more than 2,300 schools across the country. We're really
Wow.
excited. We've been around 15 years. We just celebrated our 15th anniversary.
Congratulations. So the company name is Booster, and then the program or your product's called Boosterthon?
Called Fun Run.
Boosterthon Fun
Yes.
Run. Fun Run.
Yes,
Great.
it's
Excellent.
boosterfun.com if you want to learn more.
Very nice, very nice. And what you're still focusing in on marketing for them, correct?
I joined the company as the company's new vice president of marketing. Really excited
Excellent.
working closely with all the teams across the company. We are highly collaborative. I love that about this organization. I really, was so impressed by the culture in the process of interviewing with the collaboration, with the strong growth mindset that exists. Culture is super important to this team. We spend a lot of time on culture-focused initiatives because we believe that's core to who we are.
That's awesome. And you've been there for how long
I
now?
joined in January,
You said about a
almost
year?
a year, just 2 months
Okay.
short, shy of a year.
Wow. That's flown
I
by.
know. It has flown by. It's been really great just to learn more about a new business coming
Uh-huh.
out of the educational childcare arena, which I had been in for 9 years. It was a natural transition. Primrose was so focused on character as well as part of the educational foundation of that program. So coming here and
Hmm.
having character development be so important to the DNA of our program and what we're delivering in the schools was really important to me and very attractive.
Is there something, where before you were working with franchise owners, is there a certain key contacts inside of schools that you're working with? Is it the principals
Yeah.
or who are you typically working
Yeah,
with?
so we actually have general managers across the country, and we have teams on
Okay.
the ground across the country in each of the different markets that we serve. And they're the primary contacts with the teams at the schools. So, primarily, our contacts could be a principal, but in general, it's more of the parent volunteer who's leading the PTA or the PTO or the other parent organization for the most part.
Nice. Nice. And so, we can feel free to talk about things from Booster, but I know I've got probably the most experience with things that we did at Primrose. But, let's just talk a little bit about maybe working with and collaborating with external users. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so I think was it about 4 years ago, maybe, when we launched the new gateway, which was the extranet. Um,
Sounds about right.
about then with Primrose, and in working with external users, those users at Primrose at that point were franchise owners primarily and school directors. And
Mm-hmm.
that was very interesting because we really had to understand first how they use the current extranet to figure out how to evolve it. Because what we thought at the home office were great ideas, when we actually dug in and built out these user groups to use as kind of online focus groups to test concepts before we actually built
Mm-hmm.
it out, we learned that what we thought wasn't really accurate. To how they were using the system currently and how they wanted to use it in the future. We also learned that franchise owners were a little bit different than school directors. The school directors were more likely to be sitting in front of an actual computer screen, whereas the franchise owners, in many cases, were mostly looking at the information on a mobile device because they were in and out of the school a little more often than the director who was primarily on site most of the day.
Nice. Very nice. I know one of the things that when talking about goals and things for the one of the things you mentioned is understanding why you're going after certain initiatives. um, Tell me how that sort of played into this.
Yeah, I think with any project, whether it be a SharePoint project or any, large initiative, especially in technology, um, you have to really understand why you're doing it, right? Like, and
Hmm.
what business problem is SharePoint in this case going to solve for you? Like, what is the root of why you're even wanting to have a revised or enhanced or new, brand new SharePoint solution? So mapping out that clearly, that business problem is really important because it really helps you to develop your ultimate project goals. And that will help ensure that your project doesn't become scope creep because, frankly, you're going to have so many opinions. Everybody has an opinion, right? Of like how something should look or how something should function. And so, if you don't have those business problems identified and clear goals, then you're going
Hmm.
to be over budget and way beyond your timeline on that. So you
Right.
need to have a filter. So when the ideas come in, you can say, okay, do they align with what we're trying to accomplish? Do they help meet a business need or solve this business problem?
Yeah, that's
That's interesting because I think everybody has good ideas, and the idea might map well to a different goal, but if you have a clear goal of what the initiative is about, then you can filter out the ones that are not aligned versus saying, well, that's not a good idea.
Absolutely. And it may be that it's not a good idea today based on the business problems we're trying to solve with this particular project initiative or this particular phase. But it's good to put it up in the, I like to call it sandbox somewhere or parking
Mhm.
lot, whatever you want to call it, um,
Right.
because you could come up, later. So I'll tell you, when I came to Booster in January, I had lots of people coming, getting to know me. It's been amazing. Love everybody here. And lots of people had lots of ideas. They were waiting for me to get here to share their ideas. And I was like, my goodness, there's so much good information, but I don't even like know what to do with all of it. So I literally
Yeah.
started an ideas grid, where I mapped out every time someone gave me an idea, I wrote it down, I wrote who it came from, and then I mapped out what areas of marketing I thought it touched. And I've got
Hmm.
that. So when we get ready to build our next plan for next year, I'm going to go to that ideas grid once we have our strategy and say, okay, of all of these ideas, how many of them may or may not fit within this strategy? Where
Nice.
are those gems? Um, so it may not be a good idea
That's great.
today, but it could be tomorrow.
Tommy and I are in the middle of going through a book called The Four Disciplines of
Yes.
Execution. And one of them is just basically recognizing that you can only really focus in on one or two goals, and they call them WIGs, which is wildly important
Yes.
goals. When I hear you talk about this, it's the having so many things, and in marketing, there's so many things you can go after, but really trying to narrow it down to the one or two goals and focusing in on those and saying those are the ones who are going to really are going to provide the most leverage.
Hmm. It's so true. Marketing today is as much of a science as it is an art. And really, I see marketing as where those two things really come together, especially with all of the new, ability to capture data is out there, and the
Hmm.
ability to really analyze data and understand more, in depth how your marketing efforts are working. You really have to almost mesh data science with a lot of creativity, to find that gem of that marketing opportunity.
Hmm. Yep. Now, for the franchise, for the extranet, back to the extranet, what changes did you see? Were people working together better, or was there more collaboration, or what are some of the things that you found that happened putting this in place, or just some of the things that you learned?
Um, so with that initiative, you know, we didn't necessarily roll SharePoint out as a solution for collaboration in the sense of
Hmm.
let's collaborate on a project initially. Like it eventually led there, but initially it wasn't built to be like a place we went and all worked on a project together, like in a collaboration space. It was really built to be able to serve up important resources and
Yeah.
news and information to the franchise owners, school directors, internal team members, at the company. So in that process, we, built a what we called a publisher group. So we had a cross-functional team from across the company, and each department had a representative, and they were responsible for their department's page on the site, management of the page, updating the page, all of their files, any updates pertaining to their files. They kind of had their own little microcosm, within the SharePoint system. And all of those folks from each of the departments got together and talked best practices. They did troubleshooting. IT was very involved in that, and communications at the company led that group and then helped to facilitate with IT improvements, that could be made over time. That was huge. You really have to have a group of people who want to support the continued innovation of it. It's not a launch it, set it, and forget it strategy, with
Hmm.
SharePoint at all. And as I was about to leave the organization, we were even having discussions about kind of the next generation of what SharePoint would look like because there are continual updates, made and new features available. So
Yeah.
they're probably moving ahead with some updates as we speak.
Nice, nice. How did you? I'm going to jump down to some questions about addressing. You were addressing different generations of users and younger generations and how people work with content. How did that impact what you were doing?
Since it was about 4 years ago, we
Hmm.
were at a little bit of a different place, I think, from just a overall technology standpoint, even just in the world, right? Things happen so fast. Like so much has happened in that time since we launched, and now I think if I had to look back, I think we did what we could at the time to meet the needs of the audience base that we had. Fast forward it to today, if I were to embark upon that same project, I would be a whole lot more progressive in
Hmm.
approach and would probably build it with a millennial and Gen Z um, mindset in mind,
Hmm.
and probably go more down that path and then help those folks that aren't there yet from a technology standpoint get trained up to be there, because I think you've got to kind of push a little bit further to the future, and encourage those to really come along.
So everything's mobile and
Mobile friendly, highly visual. I would take an internal marketing approach to
uh-huh.
how the look of the site was. I would basically take marketing principles and apply them to, at the time we said internal communications, but how we communicated. And, we had had discussions years later after we launched the project about innovative ways to take it to the next level, but sometimes infrastructure wasn't possible at the time,
Yeah.
or funds. But if I had to do it again, I would absolutely take a definitely more progressive approach.
Put a little augmented reality in it.
Yeah, why not? And also,
I,
to
More
I'm
emojis.
kidding, but but at the same time, I think people are actually looking at
Yeah.
that, and
totally.
I, I've heard people doing it in ways that you really don't think would be a business function. You just think of um, more of the gaming world when you think of augmented reality. But I think to create experiences that you feel face to face, and you got that with GoToMeeting and Skype and some of those web sharing technologies that is more of a two-dimensional video experience, and now you see collaboration in an augmented reality where you can be pointing to the same thing and it feels like you're there together, more of a three-dimensional video experience.
It's almost like you're sitting right here beside me, Tom. It's
Right.
amazing.
Holographic.
Wait, you
Wait,
are.
oh, hey, hey,
Quit
he's
poking
alive.
me. Quit poking me. I've always promised people that Tommy and I might break out in a fight during the podcast. So that's always it's a nice edge to have on things, right?
It is so true, though. I think it's really important to really understand the generation, right? So, Booster is a very millennial focused workforce, primarily. And so when I came to Booster, um, all of a sudden, like text messaging, totally common, happens all the time for business. I barely ever used it at Primrose, hardly
Yeah.
ever. Only if like I couldn't find somebody in the building and I needed them immediately. Whereas it's really common from a collaboration and culture and, hey, what are you doing for lunch kind of thing in addition to business. That and Zoom meeting, we use Zoom meeting all the time. Everything's video conference.
Yeah.
FaceTime, I FaceTime all the time. I don't think I ever FaceTimed in my previous role. We're just very flex, like you could FaceTime from anywhere and be in the meeting or Zoom in. And I think that's, kind of the way of the workforce, and the flexibility. And, I got to say, being a mom, a working mom, I love that flexibility, to be able to zoom in when I can't be there in person and still be 100% present for that meeting.
Now at Booster, I'm assuming you guys don't use SharePoint. Do you have like an intranet, or what do you? Is there something that you rely on for internal
Um,
collaboration? Maybe you have
yeah,
documents and things
no,
like that.
we use a lot of different tools right now. Asana is a big one that we use more for project management, but it also becomes a highly collaborative tool. A lot of our file systems are box based,
Mhm.
but yeah, we don't have a SharePoint system per se, not yet,
Mhm.
at least.
Um, just in, I wanted to ask you about as a VP of marketing, any keys that you have to collaboration? What are some of the things that you've learned through the years?
I think in collaborating, it's really important to have a growth mindset and to be able to approach those, and I'm going to say cross functional team meetings or collaboration opportunities with the mindset of wanting to learn something new from that, not
Mm.
just coming to the meeting and wanting to get your point across. I think doing a lot of listening is important. Some of the folks here joke that I'll come into a meeting and I'll just listen and I won't really say anything. And then maybe three-quarters of the way in the meeting, I ask a question and they look at me and they're like, oh, wow, we didn't think about that. But I've just been listening and processing. And
Hmm.
so listening is a very important, I think, skill that is something that could be fostered by many in organizations. I know it's something I continually work on too. I think the other thing to in collaboration is to allow yourself time to think after. So when you finished a collaboration meeting or some sort of collaborative initiative, give yourself time to think and process what you heard, what you think you heard, and then clarify with whomever what it was that you heard was actually what was said. Because I think sometimes we get so quick to act on things that we don't take time to just sit and think, and thinking is an action too, right?
Hmm.
Mhm. That's a good point. I think we tend to fill our schedules where we go from meeting to meeting and task to task and be retrospective to what just happened to make some conscious decisions that are not just you know um, knee-jerk reactions to what you think is the next step.
So
And
true.
this has been, I think, one of the themes starting to talk to different folks about collaboration, which was one of the seven habits, which is seek first to understand, and how important that is. The habit is seek first to understand, then to be understood, and how important it is within collaboration to understand the other person's point of view. And I think you're also pointing out that providing, really doing empathetic listening, putting yourself in their shoes, and how important that is as well.
Yeah, and I think the other thing with collaboration, I feel like I'm part of two cross functional teams here at Booster, and each of those teams is led by different executives in the company. Though the meetings are very different in what we cover, um, they're both exceptionally well run. There is a planned agenda. It's super clear ahead of time. You know going in
Hmm.
what's going to be covered. There's an attention to the time in making sure there's enough time for each of the topics, and making sure we end on time. And there's really great follow up. And I think that's a testament to the leadership of who's kind of shepherding those meetings. So coming to a collaborative meeting as the leader of the meeting is very different, I think, than coming as as an individual who's participating. I give a lot of credit to the leadership here on how efficient and organized and thoughtful we are in being able to make those meetings be successful and beneficial to business.
Awesome. Awesome. So your favorite Ryan brother? Not
Connor, your son. How could he not be? He's so
I
cute.
love it. Isn't he a cute
He
little
is.
dude?
Yes, he is. He's so cool.
He is. He
Not that
is.
y'all aren't, but you know.
He's got a new little brother, which we'll catch up sometime on that as well.
Yeah,
But
I can't wait.
um, so tell me, just to wrap things up here, and sounds like you got some fun stuff coming up in December. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the holidays. I can't believe that Halloween is here and gone. Thanksgiving's around the corner, and Christmas is not too far after that. In the December timeframe, we do, and we're actually doing 6 events across the country with our teams, where we're bringing regional teams together. And I am actually going to our event in the Poconos, which I'm super excited about. Though I have no warm clothing, so it looks like I'm going shopping. Uh, but this
Heads up, Brad, it's coming.
Yeah, heads up, buddy. Yeah, right. But this is one of our kind of annual conferences where we bring our team members together and we really celebrate them and celebrate the successes that we've seen from the fall semester and prepare for the upcoming spring. We're a highly innovative organization. We like to come together and share best practices, but we really love to celebrate and we love to celebrate our teams. We love to celebrate our clients. It's part of our culture. It's our DNA. And so this is a celebration and a learning experience at the same time when I get with our teams across the country who are the people who are closest to our clients. I learned so much from them. I've only been here a short time, so I'm continuing to be a sponge, and they get you really excited about the future, and just love to celebrate with them. So guess I got to go buy some clothes, which that'll be fine. So, but I look forward to coming back with lots of new ideas to put on my ideas list.
Nice. I think that's a wonderful way of capturing. I mean, I think a large part of people sharing ideas is they enjoy being heard. And it sounds like you're really doing that and at least capturing that from them. And that's a wonderful idea. That's definitely something I'll take away from this conversation.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. Awesome. And I think overall, these organizations that you're involved with, Kim, are just they're very mission based. They're making societal, cultural changes, and it's just wonderful to see where you're going with your career and the impact that you're having. I really appreciate you taking the chance or taking this time out of your busy week. I know you're very busy and just catching up with things. Thank you for doing this, Kim.
Oh my gosh, this was so fun. Thank you so much for the opportunity to chat with you. And, I can't say enough about, the time we spent together working on projects in my previous days at Primrose. And Thruwell was a valued partner, and we just really loved not only just working on the project, but the fact that your team took the time to coach and teach along the way. So as much as it was a project, it also was almost a professional development opportunity. Um, and we just really appreciate you guys. Thank you for what you do. And thanks for
Absolutely.
creating this cool podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And thanks, Tommy, for joining me.
Sure.
And thank you, everyone, for listening, and have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye bye.